Well, hello and welcome to episode 100 of Retropower Uncut. And that means we've been doing these for nearly 2 years. And I think miraculously we've not actually missed a week in 2 years. So that's bound to go wrong soon enough. Thank you very much for everyone who's followed us over the course of those 2 years. We do read the comments and it's always interesting to see how many positive comments there are. Thank you very much for those. Of course, we had to think long and hard about what to do for episode 100, and we turned to some of the comments when we were thinking about that, didn't we?
Yeah, so we've got we've had a pretty good look through them all, and one of the common requests is to meet some of the people actually doing the work and see what's going on behind the scenes, and actually see who the people are behind Retropower, because it's quite a big team now. There's quite a few of us. It's grown quite a large amount since we started doing these videos. So we figured that as a special episode, which is actually going to be quite a long episode for episode 100, we would do a meet and greet of all the members of the Retropower team and see exactly what they're all about and what they do with cars in their spare time, if they do mess around with cars in their spare time, and generally see who the team are.
Brace yourself, it's a biggie.
Yeah.
Fire away. Yeah. Fire at will. Which one's will?
Which one's will? When did you start? Well, I suppose I ought to say, hello, Callum.
Hello, Daniel. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I have questions.
Good.
I have many questions.
Fire away.
Written by yourself. But the first one would be, which is a fairly obvious question, really, but when did you start at Retropower?
Well, it's a tricky one, that one. Yes, 2009. Around the time you started there as well, yes. Funnily enough. When we've decided, basically at the point we decided that mucking about with cars might as well be done in a unit rather than on our driveway. That's about the sum total of it.
We just decided that maybe it was possible to earn a living from doing it.
Yeah, it's not.
That took a while. That took a little while. And what's your earliest memory of Retropower?
There's so many, actually. I remember your first one was sweeping the floor, and I've got some recollections of the unit when we first looked in it. I remember the Rolls Royce that was there, which, because it used to be owned or rented by a limo company, and they obviously got into debt with the landlord, and they'd left an old 70s flagged with filler Rolls Royce. It looked okay, but you look close.
Sell that for him?
Yeah, that's right. I think he bought it, didn't he? Yeah. And then. I remember weirdly, you remember that white 6 Series that I had? 635 CSI. I remember parking that in there for a bit. I must have been doing something on it before we kind of set everything up, just while it was an empty unit.
Yeah, I think because you still had that from, you were doing the last little bits.
I was doing some bits and bobs on it. Yeah. But then I think my funniest, and it wasn't right at the very beginning, but it's my clearest and most amusing memory was one of the very first cars we did, that Mini Cooper, the green Mini Cooper.
Ah, yes.
I mean, there's all sorts of things I can remember about picking it up, but the one that sticks in my mind is when I was pulling it back onto the ramp in the unit to do a bit more work on it. And our old two-poster had like the bump at the bottom where the chain runs over, so you have to give it a bit of beans to get it over that, which I did, forgetting that there was no brakes on the car, and drove straight into the wall of the unit.
The nicely newly
after we'd done a load of work. Well, thankfully it didn't really damage it. It bent the bumper. I think we had to maybe replace the bumper and maybe a few bits of touching up around the front. But,
it bent the cabinets more than the
car. It hit the tool cabinets on the wall. So yeah, that was probably my favourite old memory.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, that was quite amusing. But yeah, there were quite a few amusing stories with those two minis, given the character we got them from as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What do you most enjoy about your job?
It's got to be the same as what I imagine most people have said. Seeing everything come together from just the initial idea, kind of the vision formulates quite quickly, and seeing that vision take shape is pretty special. And then obviously seeing the customer sort of realise the dream that they had as well. So that's what that is literally what it all revolves around. I think, Gaz doesn't like repeatedly sanding stuff, I'm sure, and I don't particularly enjoy doing up nuts and bolts or any of the other things that I do, but it's the culmination of all of those things that I think makes the job special throughout, because there's a lot of jobs people do where you're doing a sort of small part of something, but you never see the overall effect of what you're doing. Whereas here we're seeing literally from the very start, when it's nothing, just an idea, to literally the completed product that's being used at the end, where you're not just seeing kind of little tiny stages of it, you're seeing the whole thing, which makes it very rewarding.
I think Gaz mentioned about could hint a bits of his interview, but Gaz mentioned about Nick's RS2000 and saying about that was pretty special because of them owning it from new and his dad seeing it and his dad going back in it. That was
thrashing off the road for the first time in like 30 years or something.
That was pretty.
It's definitely that overall. The seeing something take shape from the very beginning to a complete product, and not just little bits and bobs.
And the variety's quite good, isn't it, as well? That's the thing. Because we don't specialise in one thing.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that to customers when they say, you've got a big mixture of things here, and yes, it would be much more straightforward if we were doing one type of car all the time. It would literally be the easiest business in the world. It'd just be like, we'll just order all the parts that go on that car and build that car. But that doesn't really excite. It's for me, and I think you as well. It's kind of seeing the next thing and thinking, right, how are we going to do this one? What we're going to do to it? How are we going to make it drive how the customer wants, or look how the customer wants? How are we going to make that happen? And coming up with all the ideas, and then seeing that through. And that's the hard bit. The ideas is the easy bit. Actually seeing it through to a finished car. Which you'll see with a lot of people who kind of do DIY car builds themselves. The proportion must be staggering of ones that are started and not finished, because at the start it seems quite easy, and then you get to sort of completing the metalwork and think, oh god, this has been a long slog. And then it's the assembly bit, which is just like you think, how hard can it be? You just put it together. Oh yeah, no, it's not quite that easy.
You hit this sort of probably 80% build stage at the point of running out of willpower and energy, and then realise that the final 20% is actually the hardest bit that's been kept carefully in store for you all the way through the rest of it.
And often with a DIY build, you just accept all the faults. You kind of drive it before it's done. And I'm the same with my house as well. I've done all the work on it, except this bit needs finishing off, that bit needs finishing off, that bit needs finishing off, and that last hurdle tends to be the bit that the DIYers just don't bother with, and then but obviously we've got to take everything to the nth degree. So even just that sort of like you say, the last what seems like 10% is actually about 40%.
It's actually a massive chunk of the job. What's your favourite car that we've built?
It's a very difficult one. I tend to sort of look at cars to suit certain jobs, if you like, and that's why I've got some of the cars I've got, is because I feel that there isn't one thing that ticks every box.
So I said this to Bet because I realised when asking the same question to Gaz, and he was sort of, but I like this because of this, and I like this because of this, and I said, well, what about a with your heart? Just a with your heart. The XJC, I think. I like some cars because they look amazing, but obviously there is a perspective I've got that almost actually other people here haven't got, isn't it? I'm, with very few exceptions, I'm the only one who's driven most of the cars, and to me the driving part of it is 90% of it. But I obviously do appreciate the appearance as well. So the Camaro, for instance, is just a stunning looking thing. I probably wouldn't choose it as my own car, because I think as a daily drive on the roads around here, it just wouldn't really be suitable. But it does look absolutely stunning. Same with like the Kaiser 2. The level of execution on it was just next level, I think, for us at the time. It's just every detail, the chrome, everything is so flawless on it, and it's just a stunning looking thing. But again, would I want to get in it on a typical day and drive it to work? I'm not sure. Whereas the XJC, it looks stunning and drives incredibly well as well, and it's sort of testament to Jag actually in the engineering of the drivetrain and suspension. And then that change of the engine to like a modern fuel injected V8s and LS3
which that attracts criticism from some, but in a car that you just want to get in, turn the key and go, and it's got plenty of go, and it cruises nicely, it's just an awesome place to be.
The engine exactly matches the car.
Yeah.
That's the thing, the engine just sits perfectly with the car.
So I think for one that I wanted to just take as my own, probably the XJC, because I would always want to just jump in it. It feels so nice to drive, looks incredible. But then at the sort of screamer end of the territory, I always loved Leo's Escort. Some of them, we've done much faster cars, the Millington Alpha, the Chevettes, all of those were knocking on for 300 horsepower, sequential boxes, etc., which is great. But for me, they're just a little bit too hardcore for normal road use.
For rapid travel from A to B, I imagine Gordon's car would probably actually be quite hard to beat.
I mean, Gordon's car is exceptionally good to drive in terms of the ride quality, etc. So I mean, I'd jump in that as a daily car for the absolute raggability. There was just something. I think it was the noise, the Duratec with the roller barrels and the airbox, which was perfect from like an air induction, cold air performance point of view. It just never had that absolute ear-piercing sharpness you get from big trumpets. So I think on the sort of aggressive end of the scale, it would be Leo's Escort. So that was a red top powered 230, 240 horsepower Mark II Escort, pretty stripped out, pretty basic, 5 links Atlas, decent struts on the front, just loads of fun. And then at the sort of more practical end, the XJC, just because it's an awesome cruiser and looks incredible.
How did, a total aside now, which isn't helping the interview, but how did Dave's Cortina, because I didn't drive that, but how did that compare to Leo's Escort out of curiosity? Because that's an interesting one, because they're both quite raw.
Yeah,
both
similar. I think the Cortina was better from a traction point of view, incredibly precise, but there's, for some reason, and I can't really put my finger on why, I think it's just because the Escort's not great for traction. It had like 185 tyres on it. It still had a 5-link rear end on Bilsteins, which is not exactly the most advanced rear end. It had essentially a bad setup on the back, which meant you could just get the back end out everywhere. But I say bad setup, it's not really the right way to describe it, but it's just, it wouldn't be fast around the track.
No.
But on the road, you could just feel like you're a race god everywhere because you can get the back end out so easily on it. It was so controllable, so predictable. The Cortina also, but it just had more traction, so you'd have to be pushing it harder to get it to that. I love the look of the Cortina. Yeah, it's an interesting one actually. I might have to drive the Cortina again to get to sort of.
I think the Vauxhall always sounds better, even when because the Cortina was although that was on normal butterfly throttle bodies, the Duratec still doesn't sound as good as the Vauxhall.
That is the other thing. Yeah, it's the noise. Is the So hello, electric car people. It is the noise that makes a massive difference. Even that's a great example really. The Duratec was more powerful clearly, but there's just something about it. It hasn't got that like. If you've never driven a throttle body car that sounds this way, you won't know what I mean, but there's just this sort of ear-splitting, almost like you can hear every individual cylinder going off, and it's just intoxicating.
If you haven't owned a red top powered car with cams and throttle bodies, you need to drive one. So what are the most memorable cars you've owned? That's a massively long list, and they're already all memorable for totally different reasons.
Yeah, I think it's sort of almost at odds with our customers spending sort of large sums of money to get these cars. A lot of my best memories are in some of the cheapest cars, just because they were hilarious, and because you didn't have to care about it, you didn't care what you did with it. I just got hilarious memories like that Renault 25.
I was just going to say Renault 25.
Yeah, I was just and so it's amusement and memories from actual things going wrong. So like the gearbox mount broke, and it's a longitudinal engine with a front-wheel drive. So the gearbox, the stick was actually on the box. So every time you accelerated, the ear stick pretty much dropped to being like flush with the floor. So I had to back off to change gear, which you do anyway. So luckily the gear stick comes back up every time you want to change gear.
Talking dash.
Dash. I had the talking dash as well. Yeah, the electronic dash. I think they had the same in the Renault 11. It has this ridiculous voice that's like clearly not computer generated. Well, I don't know if it was. I don't think it was. I think it was like a recording of a very well-spoken Englishman with some sort of effect over it to make it sound like a robot. It was just hilarious.
Brake pads.
Yeah, it read out the categories of failures. So one would be like, I don't know what it would say, but the one would be like safety critical. And then one of the categories was easily forgotten, and so easily forgotten, something like oil change. But the last one of the more important, when you press the button to read through everything it said, the last one of the more important things said brake pads. And then the next category was easily forgotten, and I always remember you press the button and it said all this stuff, and halfway through it says brake pads, easily forgotten. Yeah, I mean, I have had so many cars, we can't really go into too many of them, but I can certainly go on to the ones I have now.
Yes, that's probably the better bit.
Which is still going to take a while.
We'll end up talking about dog Carlton.
Oh God, yes, of course. Yeah, I had a Vauxhall Carlton that I made look like the Dumb and Dumber dog van, and drove to the sale. Drove to Monaco and back in it.
Without a radiator.
Which was good as well. Yeah, I had to pack it with snow on the top of the Gothard Pass to keep it cool. And go down to a mountain stream to get more water for it, which was entertaining. Yeah, I mean, now I've sort of calmed down a bit in terms of changing cars so regularly, and
got more expensive ones.
Yeah, I guess I got more expensive ones and understood more what it is I want in a car, or what I want in several cars. So I've obviously got the Celica, which I think we've seen in a previous one, and that was a sort of dream car purchase, I think it was 3 years ago probably. For the looks, essentially. It was a car that my wife said she really liked it, and I'd always sort of admired them from afar and just thought unattainable, so I won't put too much more thought into it. But yeah, now I've got one. That definitely ticks the stunning to look at box, and it just, being Japanese, everything just works on it perfectly well. You know, the heating's great, it cruises on the road really comfortably. I've driven it to Goodwood a few times. It's in its element, just cruising at 70, 80 mile an hour. But if you want to hurtle down country lanes, it's not the car. It feels like a 70s, it feels like a 70s car. So the steering's a bit vague. It's not particularly powerful. It doesn't sound particularly good. And it's not particularly practical if I want to take the family out either. I've got 2 daughters, so the one that ticks more of those boxes is the one I'm working on at the minute, really, to get back to how it should have always been, but I've neglected it quite a lot. Is a E30 Touring, which I built with a M42 B18, which is the 318 IS engine, but they never offered that in the Touring. And to me, that seemed like the best combination, because with throttle bodies and aftermarket management, which it's got, it makes very, very close to 325 power, but with the weight, much better, because the big problem with the 6s is there's so much weight over the front, and makes the car overall lighter. So that ticks an incredible amount of boxes. I was talking to you about this the other day, and there aren't many cars that do this, that look cool, are 4-door, 4-seat, reasonably practical cars with a reasonable sized boot. Small enough engine and light enough that they're not ridiculously thirsty, but powerful enough that it's reasonably quick. So it ticks all of those boxes. It's only an 1800, but it's just shy of 170 horsepower. And it makes a great noise again. And it does drive. You can thrash it down the country lanes, and it feels great to drive. It's not like the sort of Celica, which isn't really suited to that kind of driving. So that's great. For the long journeys, going back years now, we were doing a trip to Le Mans Classic, and I wanted a comfortable car because I didn't have one at the time to go down there in, and I bought a Honda Legend for 1,400 quid.
Is that all you paid for that?
Yeah, I
thought you paid more than that.
No, and that's turned into like a weird love affair that I just can't get rid of it, because it's so comfortable and nice to drive. And I've had all of the other luxury cars pretty much of that era, 7 Series of all engine types apart from the V12, Jag XJs. I've driven an LS400, and actually, despite it being front-wheel drive, the Legend is just a great car.
On paper, and at first appearance when you sit in it, you would discount it.
Oh yeah, and it looks terrible on the outside.
Yeah,
as well.
It looks awful on the outside, but actually, certainly, I would say overall, it's the best front-wheel drive car I've driven, which is a ridiculous claim. But actually, in terms of being properly engineered, and it doesn't torque steer, it doesn't do all the horrible things that make me hate front-wheel drive cars.
And it's of the era where it had all the gadgets you actually need, but they were all nicely laid out with actual buttons, rather than having to go through screens that you can't really look at, concentrate on when you're driving. Or modern cars just seem to have everything confusing to use on a lot of them. I mean, some of them better than others.
And that you just get in it,
Yeah,
use it.
Yeah, exactly.
It does what you want it to
Just
do.
does what you want it to do. Yeah.
It's an unofficial Retropower courtesy car.
Yes, it has. It has been borrowed out a lot of times. Let's touch wood, not let anyone down yet. And then I've got what will hopefully eventually be a track car. At the moment, with bringing up kids to the age they are and building up this business, I haven't had an enormous amount of spare time. I'm sure that will carry on to some extent, but I would like to get into some track use. Whether I can actually go racing at some point, that would be great. But in lieu of being able to do that, track days. So I've got an E36. It isn't an M3. I've got an M3 engine to go in it, so it will basically be an E36 M3 track car, which again for me, I feel ticks. I haven't tracked it yet, but I feel it ticks the boxes that I want, because I want it to be an enclosed saloon. There's something about that type of car that I just feel comfortable with. I've driven them on the road, and they're an exceptionally good car to drive. I think the best of all the 3 Series personally, and I have done pretty much back to back between E30, 36 and 46, and 90 to be fair. And it's a way stiffer shell than a 30, so it feels much more precise. But it's a lot lighter than the 46, and there's something about the 46 that it just seemed like the car pushed over into being Grand Tourer at that point. It's too GT-like. Maybe a lot of that would be removed when you strip it out for race, but for me, a 36 with a sort of 300, 350 horsepower, naturally aspirated engine in it is going to be a great car around the track, and I can't think of anything that I massively more want. More power in it would be great.
I was just going to say,
I will want more power. Yeah, I know. Originally, I was going to build it with a supercharged V8, which was, I was aiming for sort of 500-600 horsepower, knowing that I would want more power. But I just know it will never get built in any sensible time frame if I go with that option. So we'll start with the 300. So that's basically the selection. The Celica's the looker. The E30's the sort of practical family car that looks cool. Legend for the long, comfortable journeys, and the 36 M3 for the track.
There you go, a fine set of motor vehicles.
A set of motor vehicles. Now I just need a 5-car garage to put them in.
Yeah. You end up like Gordon. What is it, 32 garages or something?
That would be the
He's
dream.
got more garage than house by a large margin.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Right. First things first.
Yeah.
Holiday boy.
Yeah.
When did you start at Retropower?
June 2017.
2017. How many years is that then? Oh,
Just gone 5 years.
Yeah. I've got to stop falling into the trap of saying the same thing in every interview, which is like, oh god, it seems like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And what's your earliest memory of working here?
Oh my goodness me. What did I work on first? The chrome on the S-Class Merc we did. W116, yeah. That was my first task, and that's the first job I remember doing.
Installing those bits on the car?
On the rear, yeah, and filing all the bits of chrome out of the sort of dovetailed sections on those and making them all fit nicely, yeah.
I'd forgotten about that car completely. I guess just because we don't see it really, because it's basically an exhibition piece.
Yeah, and it was standard, wasn't it? But pretty much.
Well,
cool.
It was actually a really cool project to be involved with.
It was. I'd sort of forgotten about that one myself. But
You did the engine build on that, didn't you?
I dressed the engine. Nat did the engine build. I did all the engine dressing. But I did do quite a lot on that car.
That was fairly early. I remember you doing all because it had a ridiculously complicated throttle linkage on it.
Yeah.
I remember you being involved with that.
It's quite fun, that. Probably to a lot of people it would look like a nightmare, but I quite enjoyed that.
No, that's the sort of methodical thinking job where you excel.
Yeah.
What do you most enjoy about working here?
Being able to think about stuff and test yourself and execute things the way that you possibly, it gives you a sort of luxury you wouldn't normally get probably anywhere else. And you can fulfill that without fear of going overboard because, in
terms of like planning kind of details on the car and how things are going to work.
And then going through things with you and just sort of trying to nail the execution of it before we get there, and hopefully doing a good job at that.
Definitely.
I would say.
And we just talked about the next question, which was, what is your favourite Retropower project?
The RS 2000's up there. most definitely. The Group 1 RS2000. XJC I like a lot and have fondish memories of, but equally
it was traumatic.
Yeah, there was some also traumatic ones. But yeah, probably the two Jags, the Mark II, the XJC and the RS, I'd say. I've not really answered your question properly.
I couldn't really pick any particular one, and the XJC is a great one for me because I think it just drives great, looks great. It ticks a lot of boxes. And the RS2000, to be fair, I mean, I think we've said this throughout, there's so many good ones, it's difficult to single them out, but I guess the RS2000 was, you're a Ford man, it was also one where it had a great story, with it being owned by the same family from New. I always refer to it as the Holy Grail Mark II Escort, because it's just, you just can't, there is not another Escort on this planet that has got the same, that same kind of sequence of things. I want to own it from New, Group 1 converted with receipts from New, 13,000 miles. It's just incredible.
I think that one, in terms of feeling the most privileged to be working on a car that we've done, I think the Mark II is probably up there. And you really did feel like there was a weight on your shoulders to execute that one. Not that there isn't on on all of them, but that one in particular.
When you see the guy who bought it new coming back to see it and drive it up the road, you think, and he's rallied it for a while as well. So
you feel like, I felt like there was a real weight on our shoulders to get that perfect.
Make sure all those bolts are done up.
There's always that weight on the shoulder. So obviously, as I mentioned, you're a bit of a Ford man, so that leads quite nicely on to. I mean, there's this twofold question really. What are some of the most memorable, or the most memorable car that you've owned?
Probably the one I've still got, which is the Cozzy, because it's always the one that I wanted since I was about 14. And then one of my other memorable ones, which might put the cat amongst the pigeons, is my GTI 6, my 306 GTI 6, which I sold to get the Cozzy, and have recently been thinking, I want another one of those, and they've gone up insanely.
And they're an incredibly good car to drive.
They are. I mean, in terms of front-wheel drive cars, that's the best one I've ever had. And I've had 205s and stuff, but the 306 is.
I've heard the same. Kurt and Jason both have or had them, and both of those said they're probably the best front-wheel drive cars they've driven.
Definitely.
I think one of those and an Integra Type R are probably the best two front-wheel drive cars.
Yeah, well, they were
in terms of like sporty driving.
They were always in the group tests together, weren't they?
It's difficult to pick one or the other because they're different in character. They are an absolutely awesome car. Tell me a bit more about the Cozzy. When did you get it?
The Cozzy I got in February 2010. After contacting someone, I think it was on Turbo Sport, who'd pulled it out of a garage, and it had been sat in a garage since 1994. Wow. And it looked all right, and it was all right. I mean, it was a very, very solid car because it had been in a garage. It just needed a little bit of recommissioning, or so I thought. And I thought, right, this is cool. I'll just get the boot lid, the bumpers, and I think the bonnet repainted. That was my plan. And then, you start taking bits off and you start refurbing little bits and you sort of think, it's sort of...
Slippery slope.
It's looking too good now to put that new nice bit against this old bit. So before I knew it, it was a complete bare shell. Did engine, everything, basically. The interior was quite good, that just needed cleaning and everything. But it was repainted, engine rebuilt. All that sort of stuff.
And I believe that's actually how we met as well, because wasn't it? Didn't you approach us to paint the front bumper?
Repaint the front bumper, There was a bit of an incident in the garage, at my parents' house, which I still don't know to this day why the bumper mysteriously fell off. Anyway, I came to it one day and found the bumper was hanging off it. And that was when I gave you guys a shout, because it had actually cracked the support on the back.
Yes, I remember.
And luckily, at that point, I have no idea, but
Jim must have been involved.
He was, I don't know, Jim, my dad. Luckily at that point, you were fairly welcoming in sort of taking on little bits of work like that, and that was pretty much the first introduction, wasn't it? I think.
And then you've also got. two Mark II
Mark
Escorts.
IIs, yeah. One on the road, one very much not on the road.
Yeah, so I've driven the ones, the four-door 1300, is it?
1600, yeah.
Which I've driven.
Yes.
You brought that back from Australia, didn't you?
We bought them both back from Australia, the two-door we bought back, but that was literally bought because I think I paid $1,500 for that in Australia, which was like, right, well, this is
that a rolling
no-brainer.
shell? Was it a complete car, or was it a rolling shell when you got it?
It had been kind of messed about with and sort of blown over with no interior, but it wasn't good at all. But as a base, which is all you're really looking for with the two-door shell, isn't it? It was good. So yeah, for $1,500 Oz at the time, I was like, I mean, think at the time that was about 800 quid. Yeah. So I was like, no brainer. It was local, so I had it. The four-door was originally an auto, and I not really looked at any in particular. I saw one for sale that looked reasonable and wasn't too far away. Went and looked at it, and I was like, compared to because it wasn't long after I'd been in Australia, if I'd have hung it out a bit longer, I could have got one that was even better. But I mean, you've seen it. And I mean,
I mean, I think that's the thing. You can see like when you go over there, suddenly like, wow, look at all these cars that haven't been on salty roads and through snow and all the rest of it. They're like, you just take your pick of the perfect shells.
Exactly. So really, it was like the first one I came across, and it was like, well, it's on its original arches, original sills. Yeah. What else?
I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you saw one here, you'd just be like,
exactly.
And then look no further,
So I had that. It was an auto as well, which at the time was a bit minging to drive. Really, went round a corner too fast, and it sort of lost drive and things like that. But I was never planning on keeping it in auto, so I thought, well, that's a plus as well. It's got the big tunnel and all that sort of stuff. So,
have you got any future plans for that one?
It's a different engine to of some description. I've got a 4-age, which I'm sort of building in the engine room when I get a chance. I've got various bits of crossflows. I've got a 16-valve crossflow idea.
I remember you.
Which are definitely
keep coming back to that.
Yeah, it'll happen. But that's So basically, I've got too many engines and not enough cars. That's the way I look at it.
That's more or less what I've got. Also, engines that aren't in cars, basically. That's going to go in that one. That's going to go in that one.
Yeah.
All I've got to do is simply put the two together.
I just need more. I need more Escorts. I keep badgering my brother about selling me his four-door, but he won't let that happen. But if I could have a few more Escorts or an Anglia 105, something like that, then basically I'll have enough cars.
You do not need more projects.
I've got the Mondeo as well, haven't I? I've forgotten about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's kicking about. But
Ford man through and through.
Yeah. So
good.
We'll see what happens.
Definitely, yeah.
With all that.
That can be that. That can be the end of that one.
So, Mark Hipperson. Here we are. And, another member of staff. So, when did you start at Retropower?
May 2011.
Which is a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
It's quite a long time ago. We were just
a little shed.
This off camera before this and musing over exactly what was going on in 2011 and thinking back to cars we were building and Kurt's white Ascona 400 replica that we were building then, which was seems a long time ago now. And we saw him what, 2 weeks ago, in the same car outside the unit here, having just been down to show with it. So yeah, it's pretty cool really. But I guess that leads on quite neatly into what's your earliest memory at Retropower?
Probably the misery of the Chavan.
The
roof of misery.
Yes,
It was like that, weren't it? All wobbly, just felt like forever, didn't it?
Yeah, we had we did a project on a
Wide body
Bedford Chavan, which had some metalwork done elsewhere, and the panels on it were quite wobbly, shall we say, and on one of the longest panels we've ever had to deal with on any car we've built is the roof of a Bedford Chavan.
It was like a builder's van, wasn't it? That was then inside was all smashed to bits.
It looked like it had ladders strapped to the roof, I think.
It got there though, didn't it? It looked nice when it was done.
Yeah, it was a big job though, that. Yeah, that's why we bought that massive block.
I think that's why I got took on, to be honest, because everybody else flapped it. Can't deal with this.
Sand that.
Because I can't give up, can I? So I was just there. Kill me now.
We got that massive block, didn't we? That massive
that
boat.
massive
We got a boat building sanding block for block sanding the roof. Yeah, it was a beast, absolute beast. But first thing we ever put Raptor on as well. That was.
Yeah, it was. But Shut. Yeah, we did put it on heavily.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Shut's good.
Yeah, learn by the jobs. But yeah, that was. And there you go. What do you most enjoy about your job?
Everything really, and the banter, isn't it? The banter, the fun. It ain't just like building a car. We have a laugh, don't we? Building them because you got to, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to
because.
Well, you know, it looks good on telly, doesn't it? Oh, the body shop, you come in and do a few minutes sanding, and oh look, it's all painted.
No, but it keeps you sane as well, doesn't it? Because. All of it, I like
you've got to
every part of it.
Typical car, there's probably there's probably 200 hours just of sanding bodywork.
Mainly the challenge I like as well, the challenge, because it is a challenging job, isn't it? It's not.
Everyone's different.
Yeah, it's never going to be like walk in the park, is it? Not.
Definitely not.
No. It looks like that.
We don't seem to specialise in those.
No.
Seem to specialise in maximum difficulty.
Yeah, but anything to do with car. You could be at home on the drive just doing some brake pads, it could turn into misery within an hour, can't it?
One bolt away from
one bolt away from misery.
I'll just take that wheel off my Range Rover.
Yeah, exactly.
An hour with an air chisel later, I managed to get the locking wheel now.
Exactly.
And what's your favourite project that we've done while you've worked for us?
It's probably the Quattro. Sure. Dave's.
Yeah.
Sport Quattro rep.
Yeah. Interestingly, I picked Dave's Alpha.
Yeah, no, it's just because I hadn't been here that long, and it was, can you cut the roof off that Quattro? And you're like, what? Yes. You've like hacked this car up in the thingy, and you're thinking, what have I done?
It looked like a complete car.
It had to do it, didn't it? We had to do it.
Yeah, it was grotty underneath.
No, it is a cool car.
It is.
It's raw, but it's cool, and we did transform it from.
It's a funny car actually, because it actually drives surprisingly refined.
Yeah.
It's actually surprisingly refined to drive. It doesn't look it at all, and you wouldn't expect it. It's actually quite refined.
And it gets a lot of attention still. It's all over social media. And when you see it, when he takes it out, there's probably about 10 different stories of it. All the time. Because it's iconic, isn't it?
And the noise is pretty addictive as well.
It's just, and probably followed by Jason Scona, probably the orange one.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
It'd be one of my. I think both of them. If I won the lottery, it'd be here. It's a big sum of money. Can I have both of them?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I think when I was sort of thinking through, it's quite that. Without naming them, it's easier to pick the projects you don't like, you didn't like so much than the ones you did. I reckon there's an awful lot we do that work for me. The majority are ones that
there's like ones like the NSU kind of like, oh god, it's ugly. But when it was painted, you think look at it and the state of it when it come in, you think you.
That's because when it's painted, you don't have to see it anymore.
No, but it's still here now. And that's a rare car, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even
I mean, it's not my cup of tea.
No, it's not a cup of tea. Like not my cup of tea.
Yours, but I bet there's not another one as good. It is. It's pretty crazy. And stuff like the ones you wouldn't immediately put up in the priority list of projects, like the W116.
But it looked
absolutely
when it was on the stand at the NEC, it looked amazing.
And I just loved the remit of that one.
And the attention it got. People like who painted that, where was that, why does that car look like that?
Yeah. And the fact that it was probably the simplest inquiry we ever had was I have an old Mercedes, can you make it new?
A lot of work. That was a lot of work, a lot of sanding, I know that.
Yeah. It wasn't even a top spec W.
No. It was a fairly low spec.
But it's got to be the nicest one there is now.
It lives in its own little house.
Most of them are down back streets in Iraq and all battered and that, aren't they? The moment you see them in films like
been Middle Eastern taxis.
Or like old like diplomatic cars or something.
I have a feeling the next question might be.
What?
Some of the memories might not be for good reason, but what are the most memorable cars that you've owned?
So you're going to be surprised now, because I'd say one was one of the funnest cars I've owned is a Renault 5 GT Turbo. Not that fast, like top end, but low end going around town. Same with the Nova SR. I had one of them. Fun car. Just the engines didn't last that long. And then
No, the Renault, as you say, it's interesting.
The Renault,
I've never actually driven one. I've never driven one.
They are awesome.
But I know they weigh nothing, and the power delivery is basically just immediate. It's just one
They handle.
lump.
They handle so good.
Yeah.
They handle, but that's probably like I've had the Pulsar GTI-R was one of my favourite. I should never let go. Just the tarmac terrorist point of it, but got me in a lot of trouble. A lot of community service, but I still regret it now.
Yeah.
I was going to buy one instead of the S3, but they want 20 grand for a decent one.
It's not really a daily
And
driver anymore, is
to
it?
be fair, people are going to be like, "Oh, it's full of shit."
Yeah.
I think that's a better car.
Yeah.
It's more refined
it
because
is,
the Pulsar you couldn't take it
it's-
to Cornwall or something.
And the reality is, that's no slow. In fact, probably quicker, the Audi.
That's quicker.
Yeah, the Audi's probably quicker. Certainly more refined. If you're actually using it as a everyday car, then I'd have to agree.
but if I could add the money, I would have another one.
Yeah.
I'd have the Renault 5.
Yeah.
I said to Steve the other day, I'd have a Nova GSI.
Yeah. Just good fun cars.
Just like
small machines.
because they look good.
aren't
They look a cool little car.
Yeah, and Novas just have a habit. You just grin, don't you? It's one of those cars. They just make you smile, don't they?
Because it's short ratio, ain't they? So they're just quick round town.
Yeah.
When we were kids, used to
No
keep
weight.
up with a cozzy round town because
nimble.
because you're just like revving the cock out of it. He's there going trying to keep it straight, and you're just on him, and they're getting frustrated. And but the only downside is there's no rev limiter, so you look down and the rev count is all the way back. So that new shit, my gasket's gone. So plus about an Astra GTE Mark 2. That's good memories.
Good engine donor.
What is the 8 valve?
Oh, it's the 8 valve.
Always because my mate had a 16 valve. Always blowing it up, gearboxes, engines.
They were tough things. Again.
The 8 valve.
Yeah.
Couldn't keep up after 100 mile an hour, but
Body shells dissolved a bit, but mechanically,
Yeah.
that was Vauxhall's probably their peak, really. That era of Vauxhall, mechanically, it's got to be their peak, really.
even had my bottom pulley come off. What, doing 80? Mate, come back,
8 valve,
bang the bolt back in.
Yeah.
I thought, it was like, it's all right.
Non-interference,
I was like,
non-interference
what?
engine. Yeah. Don't get away with that with the 16 valve.
No, but
You get a
yeah.
big bill.
Because I just looked in and he went, so I was trying to start it, nothing happening. And I was like, he come out and he went, your bolts fell out. I'll go and get one, like he had one in his garage. We bolted it back, fired straight up. I was expecting it to be live.
Thing is, they're things you could only get away with in that period of time with that type of car.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen now.
But it wouldn't die,
No.
that car. I think he got
Absolutely.
stripped, died it for ages, and like, while I was serving a little time off.
We won't mention
No,
that.
but a little time off.
A little driving break.
Yeah.
Little
But,
break from driving.
It was sitting on the garden. My mates were doing a 16 valve rally car. They need some bits. I said, yeah, just give me 500 quid. Have it for bits. I'll just get the wheels.
Shame now, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was just
They
sitting there.
did dissolve well. That's
Yeah.
the downside. They did dissolve
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
They weren't
But-
a very strong shell. You didn't want to hit much with them.
Yeah, but no. So no.
And I guess that all leads into what you just kind of touched on, really, which is what is your current project, fun and daily car, and obviously that's daily car, really, from your point of view.
That's
You're probably wise enough not to be doing projects.
Well, no, I have got plans for it, but then I keep thinking, am I going to keep it? But then when I think of getting rid of it, I take it out for a good drive, and I think I don't want to get rid of this.
Yeah.
But no,
Which is the car being. Obviously, you've not mentioned it yet.
oh, it's now Audi S3 8P.
Yeah, in colour. What's the colour? Because I can't remember what it's called now.
I forgot what the colour's called now. It's like it goes from
Aubergine sort
well, it
of
goes from
vehicle
like burgundy to gold flip to like a purple, like in some.
colour I've not seen.
It's well, I can't find another
Cribbage
one.
from McDonald's purple.
Yeah, I can't find another one. The only colour I've seen is on the Golf R.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was an exclusive colour. Not many people ticked. But
I know nothing. I'm the least VW
That's-
educated person.
it's one of the
around.
reasons I brought it because I like
it does look
I like
cool.
to be different,
It's a really nice colour.
and like you don't see it, and it is
So
nice.
it's a day-to-day car.
Yeah.
They're pretty. If you don't need lots of space, they're pretty hard to beat.
Well, it's alright. Yeah, they're like
It's a
it's
reasonable
a lot of room in the
amount,
back,
yeah.
but like it's not intended for a family.
Pretty good. Pretty Pretty good. No dogs at the moment.
No
and
dogs
no,
either,
No
no-
family.
no
so
pets.
you're right.
Oh, right.
So yeah. No, very cool car, and as I say, I do like. I'm not normally one to focus on colours of car. I'm the last person to do that normally, but it is a really cool colour of car. I really like it. It's, I kind of wish I'd seen that before I painted the Range Rover.
I like colour. I've got to get the paint codes. I want to get a spray out of it. Just I can't be. I don't think it'd be a nice colour to match.
No, I imagine not, but not as bad as something like Focus RS, the orange on them or something.
Oh, no, that's bad.
Yeah, that's horrendous. I was just watching a video about a guy matching that on one of the MSRT Transits, and that looked nightmare.
Well, my mate borrowed my mate's, scratched it, and it needed a whole side repainting.
Just do the whole thing.
It was bad.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Right. Let's start with the first question, which has been an interesting one throughout. Sorry. Oh, fucking hell, I'm fucking this up already. It's the second question that's the interesting one. Right. Fucking hell. So, when did you start at Retropower?
I started in November last year.
Yeah, well, it's not. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it seems like 2 seconds ago for everyone. Everyone to me, it's like, oh yeah, you only started like a few months back, and then John's like, oh yeah, I've been here like a year. George is like, yeah, I've been here a year.
Should have been a bit sooner, but slight accident.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You had the infamous washing line.
Yeah.
You broke
Fell
your
over.
foot hanging some laundry out. Yeah. That means you're exempt from hanging the laundry out for good now.
Unfortunately not.
Apart from breaking your foot, what's your earliest memory of Retropower?
I suppose it was talking to you, I think.
Yes, I suppose so. And going, you're quite fast at giving you a job.
Yeah, talking to you on the
Do you remember the first thing you were put on when you started it?
Mustang Windows.
Oh, God, that's still what you're doing now.
Yeah, it's still there.
that pretty much
Not fully removed.
Sums up the Mustang Windows, although in your defence there's been quite a lot between the Mustang Windows there and now.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about working here?
It's seeing cars come together. You have this plans there how they're going to go, and it's just seeing them come together and
shape, not the relentless piss taking.
No. That's all part of it.
So the piss taking usually revolves around your motorsport interest, which is
Manga Racing.
So what's your history with Manga Racing?
I got into it through my brother when I was about 13. I had my first race when I was 13 or 14 in a Chevette, and it's
that's not the ideal banger car.
No, when you're I was only
whatever you can get your hands on.
Come second, so I was quite chuffed for that.
Awesome.
And then did it for about 15, 20 years on and off.
Awesome. So this might tie in, right? The next question, because I know, like, a lot of guys, I know all the cars they've owned, but I was thinking about it before you came in. I was like, I don't actually know much about your own car history, apart from the Manga Racing. So what's the most interesting or memorable road car you've owned?
Capri.
Which model?
Just Mark III Laser.
1600 or 2 litre?
1600.
Yeah, I had exactly the same thing. It wasn't black, was it?
No, it was a very dark red.
Yeah, I had a black 1600 Laser, and I absolutely loved it. And I got it. I thought at the perfect point when they started skyrocketing value, and I think I paid something ridiculous like £500 for it. Sold it for about $3,000, and I thought, oh wow, I'm absolutely minted now. And now I look at it, and I'm like, I bet if I'd, because it was completely immaculate. I bet if I'd hung on to it, it'd probably be about 15 now. Yeah. How many cars can we?
I'm going to say a lot of cars I've got through, and wish I kept hold of them.
Yeah, banger cars mainly, probably.
Yes.
Smashed them all to bits.
Yeah.
I know you've got your eyes on getting a car. I'm guessing.
Yes.
Family and life has got in the way of toys lately, so you've got your eyes on.
That's why the Capri went.
Yeah.
I had an extension on the older house, so I had to go to that.
Yeah. So you're thinking about getting a new toy?
Yes. I'm not set on one thing. There's lots of cars I like Fords, I like Vauxhalls, I like Mark II Cavaliers.
I heard Orion knocking around.
Yes, there's an Orion that's coming up soon, so we might have to go and have a look at that.
Like them, the 1600 or the 1600 Gear I were they, which is kind of like an XR3i, but I think back in the day they weren't anywhere near as cool, but now in my eyes it's almost cooler to have the Orion than the Escort, because I think it's just a bit of a
you don't see them. You just don't see them.
No. You go to show, even when you go to shows, there's loads of Escort XR3s and 3is, but you don't see anywhere near as many Orions.
And there's Mark 1 Cavalier there as well, so that
Mark 1 Cavalier.
Yeah, yellow.
I'd always wish it was a Manta if I had a Mark 1 Cavalier. But you were also saying Mark II Cavalier convertible. And I had to ignore you at that point. Pretend you hadn't said that.
I like Mark II Cavs. I've got a soft spot for them.
I do quite like the SRI 130 to be fair. Yeah. But then I had an SRI 130 engine in my Opel Ascona, and that was, I think the thing is, it's front wheel drive, and I think that's where it always kind of crossed the boundary for me, is that in the Mark 1 rear wheel drive, put the SRI 130 in the rear wheel drive one. And
everybody says I have to get a rear wheel drive, but I've raced that many cars that were rear wheel drive.
Yeah. To be fair, just for like something cool to rock around to working back in, it doesn't really need to be anything like that, does it? It's just something that looks cool.
Yeah, something different.
Awesome. Right, let's move on to the next one. Who's next? Well, here we are again. Well, Steve. There you go. I've used a name this time. I've actually remembered to say a name. I've forgotten to actually mention names on several of my high-quality interviews. But so, first question, I suppose, and the really simple one to which you've just told me the answer, fortunately, because otherwise I really wouldn't have known, because it all feels like one big fast forward, is when did you start at Retropower?
April 2021.
2021, yeah.
So,
yeah, that's gone by in a blur, I imagine.
very fast, yeah. It doesn't seem like 5 minutes.
That's like more than a year. Which is, it's quite
Did you start and then join straight go to Retro Rise
Yes.
Weekend?
Yeah. Literally like about a month after.
Yeah.
Bedford Gate.
Yeah, straight to Retro Rise Weekend in a car, which is probably going to answer one of the other questions about being a memorable car for after that trip. And what is your earliest memory at Retropower?
Well, probably been Retro Ride, literally a month after being here.
We'll elaborate on that one slightly. Steve has a Bedford CF. Is it CF1 or CF2?
It's a CF2. It's like on the crossover.
Yeah, an early Bedford CF2 camper van with the old Vauxhall 2.3 slant 4 in it. And he just started working for us, and then we're going with a load of folks from I didn't go actually, but going with a few folks from the team down to Goodwood for the Retro Rise Weekender. And well, I'll hand to you to how that journey went.
It was going all right until we got to the A46 roundabout and the clutch cable snapped.
The A46 roundabout being
like 10 miles from home.
10 miles from here.
Which resulted in causing a bit of a traffic jam on the roundabout, having a lorry driver help push it down the slit road so we could try and bump it.
And me.
And you and everyone.
But then at that point, a lot of lesser people
would have gone home.
Would have just said, right, well, we'll give that up. But no.
No, we managed to get it into third gear and drove another 100 odd miles almost.
In third gear.
In third
all
gear.
the way down which is it? It's the
A46,
M40, A34.
Yes, through roundabouts, traffic, without stopping, until I was unfortunately about 20 miles away, and there was a crossroads.
Did you get past like Southampton and Portsmouth?
We literally about 20 miles away before,
not far from Chichester.
Before we had to stop at a crossroads, and then trying to bump it off the line with the start motor, it eventually killed the starter as well, so I was totally stranded there.
Then you were
admitted defeat and got recovery.
To the event though?
To the event, yeah. No, don't give it that easily, no. Yeah.
Recovery to the event, and then did you get recovery again back from there?
I joined the AA while I was there.
To split the recovery
and I've seen a guy there fixing a car, and he managed to come back on the day we were leaving and make up a temporary clutch cable, which I used to get me all the way home, and then Great Yarmouth, and then Dorset and back on this temporary clutch cable.
You didn't want to chance any slightly longer journeys, of course. So.
Yeah.
Cool, but it's now in bits being reworked a little bit, and revamped, and
the engine came out and was refreshed. All the gaskets done on it. It's now back in and running. I've just fitted a new clutch cable.
Oh, brand new
one.
Old stuff.
So it's just clutch adjustment now, and then it should be back out.
Ready for sunshine and holidays.
Ready.
Just probably now.
Ready for retro rides.
Ready for retro rides at Mallory, and hopefully not lots of rain, given the weather we have had.
Yeah.
Hopefully the weather will stay good. Yeah,
but at least it's local this time.
Yeah. You could tow it. We could tow it there pretty readily, couldn't we? Somebody would be able to tow it.
If it breaks, yeah.
If it broke properly, but it's got to break pretty well, judging by the previous experience of managing to get it to the other end of the country with no clutch. It's pretty good going. So that's earliest memory. What do you? I guess because you've not been here that long, a couple of these questions are going to be a little bit moot, really. What do you enjoy most about your job? But I'm guessing a lot of that's going to be the finished product, of which you've only really just sort of glimpsed, really, haven't you, at the moment? So you've not really had to
I'm trying to think where you came, what projects you've come into, where you've come really. You've seen a lot of CV8.
Yeah, well, when I first started, it was the Chevette bodywork was just beginning, so we did all the body and paint for that, and then all through to finish.
Yeah.
Then the Redux Bmw.
Yeah.
It was all the metal work side of them were done. It was just straight onto the body when I started.
Yeah,
so I've seen them through the paint process, and then assembly to finish.
Yeah, because I'm guessing, presumably, I don't want to put words in your mouth on that, but I'm guessing that you're not about to say, "Oh yes, sanding is my favourite part of the job," unless you're particularly strange. I don't imagine.
No, I don't think it's anyone's favourite part of it. But they're seeing it go from what they are to finished products. The best bit, really.
Thing, isn't it? That paint stage. We've got to presumably that's one of the bits where I suppose you're happy not to have the stress, but equally you'd probably quite like to give it a go. But a bit of final paint at some point. But yeah, Steve's sort of not. I think his own modesty and care will probably hold him back more. So at some point he'll get pushed into the saddle probably on some paintwork jobs. So he'll. You've done some of the primer work, haven't you?
And direct and things.
We'll push in the direction of a bit of paint at some point. I'm sure Gaz won't mind letting go of the reins now and again because he definitely feels the pressure a little bit then.
He does.
Yeah. What's your favourite project that you've? I'm guessing some of them might be ones you've seen or done or anything that's gone out of these doors, I suppose. Do you have a favourite you could think of?
I really like Vadar, the Chevette, with being a Vauxhall.
Yes, I suppose,
Yeah, I really did like that. Family. Yeah, so that's one I've worked on, definitely that. Yeah. But I think ones that I've not worked on but I've actually seen would be the Orange Ascona. I think that one's just top level.
Yeah, that was it. It was a funny old. Again, I didn't talk about it because when did my little interview when Cal was interviewing me, but it's an interesting one. That came about at a show that you'll be very familiar with, a drunken conversation around the campfire at Billing Aquadrome, at the VBOA show at Billing Aquadrome. I was talking to Jason, the car's owner, and obviously we were going to do the Ascona anyway. He already wanted to do it and turn it into a 400 replica, and that was all a given. But he wasn't decided it was going to be a normally aspirated red top, and I happened to mention that I'd got an Eaton M90 supercharger from a Jag 4 litre XJR6, and that I thought, having done a little bit of very rudimentary maths, I thought it'd probably be quite good on a red top, on a Vauxhall XE, or running a lot more boost than it would run on the 4 litre Jag engine, and I thought that would make quite a good engine. And he said, "Oh, if you think it's a good idea, why don't we do it for the Ascona?" And that's where that idea started from after a few beers, and it works quite well.
It does.
It was a plan for me to put in a Class 10 autograph car at the time, but that kind of went out the window, and it ended up going into Jason's Ascona instead. So yeah, that was where that's when I first bought that autograph car, which is how long I haven't used it for. But anyway, that's an aside. But yeah, it is a very cool car.
It is.
Yeah, makes a pretty cool noise as well.
It does.
Going from our projects to yours, because it's quite a long list. But what are the most memorable cars you've owned?
For me, I like my old Vauxhall Nova that I had, which I put a red top in, and then eventually turboed.
Right.
It was a GSR replica.
Yeah.
Used to just like taking it Santa Pod down the quarter mile. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, surprisingly quick. Well, not surprising, I suppose. It's not all that surprising that they're fast, but I'm taking it was reasonably quick.
It was reasonably nippy, I did enjoy that one. But yeah, just
what happened to that?
I took the engine out to refresh it and refresh the shell a little bit, but then I just decided to sell it like an idiot. And instant regret.
I know what you mean. When it's all in bits, it seems a long way away from being a working car, and suddenly the goal of it being all working again seems so far away that it's easy to let go of at that point. And then you think, why the hell did I do that? I could have probably got that back together in a week. Yeah,
I was planning on getting another shell and starting again from the ground up, but
shells are hard to come by.
They are now. I didn't realise they'd go up in value as much as they have. So.
Yeah, because then you've got a Corsa now, haven't you? With the
with my girlfriend. Yeah, she's got a Corsa B.
Yeah, with the Saab
Yeah, it was a red top, but I took that out and put a Saab engine in it, and I've nothing but misery ever since. So that was a regret.
Oh, never go wrong, Saab engine.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll put it back to a red top. I'm sure we can find one lurking around.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then it's got the Bedford.
Yeah. Sold your Chevette.
Just recently, yeah, sold my Chevette this week. Yeah.
So that's gone.
Yes.
Getting this, huh?
Yeah, I've got a 200SX S14. That's my girlfriend's as well. I've got a motorbike now as well.
Yeah.
I think passing my bike test and getting a bike.
It's changed.
So, yeah.
Swung from. It's always a difficult one. I've never ridden bikes, so I don't really. I can see the appeal, but I also know that I'll injure myself badly almost immediately. So I've never done it. On the grounds, if I can't, then I won't. Yeah, I've always kept that one out of the way. So what's your, I suppose we've sort of touched on it there, but and equally it's slightly vague at the minute because there's lots in bits, I'm guessing, but what's your current project, fun or daily car? Your daily car is kind of whatever's operational.
Whatever's working out of that drive, yeah. I've been using my motorbike a lot because it's summer.
Yeah.
Luckily I live close so I can walk or push bike, so.
Push bike's a good
Push
idea,
bikes.
I quite like doing that.
Yeah, so I've literally, been using the S14 and.
How far off, because you've got this Suzu Trooper as well, haven't you? Still got the Trooper?
I have got the Trooper, short wheelbase, 2.8 diesel.
Yeah, you've got to have that going for winter.
Yes, hopefully the next couple of weeks that'll be back out.
Yeah, you did have a Discovery, but you sold that.
I sold that, yeah.
But the Trooper over winter would be nice, wouldn't it? Something a bit off-road, you do a few muddy lanes over winter and go and have a competition with Gaz to see who can get stuck first. I reckon the Trooper will have it, but Trooper will win that battle, I think. But yeah, quite a large car list, really. I imagine we've still got quite a few missing off there now. But
yeah, I've had over 35 cars, I think, roughly to account.
You've got the project sickness bad.
Yeah, but although since buying my house, I have calmed down a bit and I've started letting them go a little bit one by one slowly. But I don't like being a grown up.
No, I don't. I have to say it's difficult, but I've kind of. You get to speaking for myself, I've definitely found that I've realised you get to a point. I don't think it's midlife crisis, but I've sort of hit a point where I realise that I ain't going to get all these done unless I stop working, and then I won't be able to afford to get them done, and I wouldn't want to anyway. So I've just had to sort of rein it all in and just like what projects am I actually going to do, and then focus on those. But like you say, and it's not necessarily the fastest or the CF camper proving a point really. It's such good fun just having a vehicle like that where you're like, look, it's really sunny at wherever this weekend, let's just go there.
That's it,
Yeah, good fun. Cool. There we go. That's
Sweet.
Steve.
Well, first things first. I'm just trying to think whether. No, you're not the most recent person to start here, but when did you start at Retropower?
About a year ago, wasn't it?
That'd be your Instagram post led us to believe that.
It's about a year ago.
It felt like 5 minutes to me.
Yeah, like
it's been a good year.
it was only when like the photos on my camera was like 1 year ago today, and I was like, oh fuck, like it's been a fucking year.
Absolutely great. Retropower time, as we always say. Cool.
Yeah, like days take 5 minutes, and then the years take like a month. Is what it feels
That's
like.
a good thing, isn't it?
That's not a bad thing at all.
But well, it's a good thing until you're trying to finish cars on a time scale, and then you're like, oh, God, where did this time go?
Yeah.
What is your first memory at Retropower? What was the first thing you did? It's perhaps.
I don't know. Like,
Well,
no, I've
you're fine.
got so many memories. I think the first thing I did was Stratos, wasn't it? Some Stratos gear, not maybe?
Oh, maybe, yeah. That's
Or maybe
feasible.
E30, like chucking me in at the deep end.
yeah, maybe.
I
I can't remember.
No,
I was
I
relying on you to know.
I think it was Stratos because then Jim or someone said like, "Oh yeah, you'll be leaving soon because the Stratos is cursed."
Yeah, that's
And I was
right,
like here for like a day, and I was like, "Oh fuck."
yeah, like, you did the gear knob and the window.
The window.
raise knobs, and they're fresh in my mind because we've just upholstered them.
Yeah,
so
no,
that was a year between
they're
machining them and upholstering.
It's taken a little while
Sorry,
to be
dudes.
done, But no, I think it was Stratos, and then
Cool.
other bits and bobs, and then spending like 6 months doing Morris door locks is what it feels like. But, it wasn't that long, but like it felt like
There
that
has
long.
been a lot. I was thinking about this the other day. There's been a lot, especially with all the E-type body stuff as well. It's been a pretty packed year. What do you most enjoy about working here?
Nothing. No, I think probably the freedom of being able to design kind of. You just kind of say, I want like this-ish.
roughly.
Like you'll draw me like a thing that takes 5 seconds to draw. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then.
Well, I've done all the hard work for you.
Yeah, you draw me like a weird like bean shape and be like that.
This sounds about right. Usually I do one attempt and like you can't even work out what that is.
And I'm like, is this a gin or is this a door card? Like, you know what's going on here? But yeah, no, I think being able to just kind of have like a lot of free reign and kind of you take on board what I'm doing, which if I was at a bigger OEM, which I could be, like. No, but like.
Bugger off to JLR then.
But no, it's I'd be probably like have zero freedom. I'd be told exactly what to do down to every single curve. Whereas here, you're just kind of like, just figure it out.
Use your creative. That's what you do.
Yeah.
You're a creative.
Yeah, no,
Do
it's
it.
fucking
Do
great.
that. Awesome.
It's great.
Right, cars. First of all, what's your favourite Retropower project? And that can include
What,
ones
here
before you
or-
started.
Probably the Chevette, Vader.
Vader. No, interesting. Is that what Gibbo just said?
It's just, I don't know, it's just a bit more
That's
kind
what
of.
John said.
It's the car that's I think I'd want the most because you can just like throw it about,
Thrash it
crap
about.
at it.
Yeah.
Whereas everything else, well, I mean, you'd still be a bit scared thrashing that, I think. But out of that compared to like
the owner
everything else.
doesn't appear to be.
Well, no, but like compared to like Utah's probably one of my favourites as well. But equally, you feel a lot more nervous thrashing that about.
I know. It was never built for that. That's the thing. So yeah, if you want a country lane thrasher, then
I think Leo Descott's probably out there as well, for obvious reasons.
That's exactly the same reason.
That's just what I'm going to make mine into now with a different engine.
And of course, you like that because it's an orange Mark II Escort.
It's an orange Mark II Escort.
Beautifully on.
Yeah,
In fact,
perfect setting.
you're how many cars have you got that are actually? It's just the Audi and the Escort, isn't it?
Audi and Escort, and then the Morris is just hidden somewhere, which we don't. I need to get rid of
Before we
at some point.
get onto the Escort, I realised that I don't really know what other cars you've owned, and so
Lots of shitters.
Right. So is there anything stand out from your car history, or is
Mark
it?
II Scirocco, I had for a little bit, which I sold way too cheap to my girlfriend at the time,
Yes.
and I really regret. And
Yes.
it's what it is.
She's watching this.
Can I have it back, please? But no, that was a car which like I bought from someone, and it was like under a tree, like green. I was like, oh, I might be buying a real dud here.
Yeah.
And then I cleaned it up, and it was mint, like, and it was like way better than I thought. And I put like just banded steels on it, lowered it a little bit, and that was a 1.8 Scar, I think, which that car was awesome. But yeah, sold that. What else have I had? Morris Minor, but that's like.
Have you ever driven that?
Yeah, it's been in the barn for probably like 10 years now.
You should drive it once and like, this is rubbish.
It's shit. Yeah. It's like 800cc and like how much a Morris Minor weighs? Like 2
sorry,
tons.
British car fans, but a standard Morris Minor is not a good thing.
It's crap. But the telecommunicators do actually work.
Okay. Well, that's all right then.
Yeah, exactly.
So Mark II Escort, that's where the driving pleasure.
Yeah, well, I've kind of had that the longest really, and then all my car money's been like funneled into that. Like,
so what have you done to that?
Lots of stuff. So it's all like different suspension, decambered leaf springs, rear disc conversions because drums are crap. It's got custom front suspension, which is lots of bits and bobs which I won't go into because it's just lots of finicky bits which took me ages to work out and took way too long.
You mean it's just got Capri struts on it?
No, it's Rick's bottom ends, Bilstein inserts, and then I think group fabrication top mounts. I can't remember what spring rates are running.
No, it was worth talking about.
There's all loads of like bearings and crap, but yeah.
We know all the Ford jacket people will be like, oh, that's not, my car's got a better specification than that, but I think it's cool.
I'm not saying it's the top spec, it's what I can afford. And then engine, it's currently on actually the original engine, kind of, because I've had a couple of different ones. The best one was probably my 1700 Crossflow, which was built at the time, and I blew a piston.
Whoops.
Melted it. racing a Tesla.
I would never do that.
Yeah, motor hole in it. And then I rebuilt the
Racing a Tesla. You don't have any chance against a Tesla.
Specifically, I was being pushed along the road by a Tesla, and then it was fine until I let off, and then I let off and it blew the piston, and it went lean. And then I rebuilt that. And then about 2 months later, it broke a different piston. The collar snapped off. And I was like, oh, it's got high crankcase pressure. I wonder what that is. And then I was like, oh, it's probably just a ring. I pulled the pistons out. And it's like, yeah, the piston fell apart in my hand. I was like, oh, no. So, so maybe not. So I took then the head off of that and put it on my 1300, which is what I've got now, because that's got like double valve springs, uprated rockers. I think they're 1.2 oversized valves, whatever the biggest you can get across below head. Balanced bottom end. I think that's it. And
So what's the future plans for the old?
The future plans, when I can afford them, is which I'm slowly just chipping away.
I can see you looking at me.
Is which is going to annoy a lot of people, is a Honda.
Oh,
So
yes,
2.4 Honda K24.
Very seen, a K-slot.
It's not seen. But there's not.
It's not Ford seen.
No, it's going to piss everyone off 14 wise. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge to fit in because they're a very tall engine, because they've got cam cradles and crank cradles, so they're tall as hell.
Yeah.
So, but I have seen it done once before in a rally car, so I'm like, I know it can be done. So it could be.
How hard can it be?
Exactly. It's going to be easy. And then that'll be on MX5 box. I need to do the axle probably to Atlas, just so it doesn't like explode.
Yeah.
And then just all the
Awesome.
just all the bits and bobs. Yeah, no, it should be good when I can eventually.
And of course, you've got turbo fans.
Which I'm going to try later on today, and then they're going to explode and destroy the side of my car.
That's exactly what's going to happen. At
Not
some point,
on-
you're
I
going to
won't-
fly off and
I'll be trying them
sever
on
through your wing.
I'll be trying them on a private road.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they're probably not legal. The stuff said not legal.
I'll call the ambulance now.
Well, yeah.
Right, that'll do nicely.
Yeah.
Who's next? So, well, here we are again. And, hello, Rebecca, my wife. So, this is Rebecca, who will probably not have been seen by most people watching our videos, but Rebecca is my wife and has been part of Retropower from the beginning, really, but more in the background, some of the time, sometimes less in the background. But, first question, I suppose, same as everybody else. When did you start at Retropower? There's two. That's a double question, really, isn't it? Yeah, that's a double question.
I started working here, actually coming into the office. Oh, no, actually even earlier than that. When did Retropower start?
2009.
2009. By 2010, I was coming in the holidays to do some bookkeeping, do some of your bookkeeping work, along with other people that were doing it. Then about 8 years ago, I was employed properly.
Yeah. Yeah, I seem to remember you starting to pick the books up in about 2012.
Maybe.
Not long after we'd gone after we'd gone limited.
Yes, it was after you got limited.
I think when we went limited, so yeah.
Because before that, your filing system was a drawer.
Yes, it was a bit basic before that. But also, as you sort of intimated, really, that when did you start at Retropower kind of as a double-edged thing, because you sort of more or less started in 2009.
Yes, I think I was always involved somewhere on the line, either here or just hearing about it.
Because at that point, your job was supporting me and Cal, really.
Kind of, yeah.
Basically, your income was what was funding our ability to run the business. So it was.
You stopped your job, didn't you?
Yeah,
you did a few days a week there and a few days at Retropower.
Yeah.
And then you stopped yours, and Cal moved back in with us.
Yeah.
And you were both full-time here.
Yeah, we were both full-time as of sort of July 2009. We were both full-time here, and then you were still full-time teaching at that point.
Yes.
And full-time support, paying the bills.
Paid the bills and fed you.
We spent every penny we got on more equipment and more stuff and more building of the business. So.
Yes.
It was from the beginning, really. I would say the question is, what's your earliest memory at Retropower? I suppose it might be, what's your earliest memory of Retropower?
My earliest memory of Retropower is sitting on the patio at the end of our garden, on the bench, with you and Cal and me and Caroline talking about Retropower.
Right.
before you'd even started it.
Ah, right, coming up with ideas and...
Or you just started. It would be that, must have been the
when
spring.
we've just taken the unit, yeah, or we're looking for a unit or
Yes.
something. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my earliest memory of Retropower.
Yeah.
Had you decided on the name by then?
I don't know.
It was around then.
There were
I
lots
remember
of
discussing it with
retro
Cal.
something options.
Yeah,
I remember
we
there
did a
being lots
few-
of options.
Yeah, I remember doing a few to and fro's, and we came up with a couple, and then distilled it down to that, didn't we?
Yeah, I
After,
think so.
Yeah, early days.
Yeah, I can't
Early
remember
days.
what
Seems
the
a long time
options
ago
were.
now.
It was a very long time ago now.
What's that? 13 years ago. Yeah, a while ago now. Obviously, at the moment, not that. What do you most enjoy about your job? At the moment.
At the
Probably ought to
moment,
clarify the background to that, to the complication to that question.
yes. Well, at the moment I'm on maternity leave, so I'm not really here. But I don't know what I enjoy about my job most.
Being here.
Being
when you're
here,
yeah,
I like
yeah.
the variety. I like being in here. I like seeing and looking out the window now. I like seeing what projects are coming in. I like all the banter between the boys. It's not actually that dissimilar to being in a primary school classroom today. It's fun. I like it. I think one of the things I like the most is the variety.
Yeah.
I do lots of different things, talk to lots of different people.
And the fact that you kind of, I suppose, off the back of that is really, it's a fairly open book in terms of what your job is really. Sometimes too open. It probably is the same for a lot of people here in that you kind of just said, yeah, just run with that and sort
Yes.
it out.
Yeah.
And the degree of sorting out is kind of left to you.
I'm probably looking a little bit at what people in the office are doing and can I take it off them to allow them to get back out into
Yeah,
the workshop so you can go and do car-y things rather than paperworky things.
Which is what particularly Cal is very grateful for, because Cal spends much more of his time than he'd like in the office, and we both like working on cars, and I get probably a lot more chance to do it than Cal does really, with the way things have panned out. So it's
Yeah,
it's very
probably.
good managing to try and absorb a bit more of the office workload. Do you have favourite Retropower project? Oh, this is a complicated one.
Oh, I don't
You just have to pluck
know.
one from the air for this, because if you start to consider it, they all have good points. But
They do all have good points. I really liked the Little Blue Alpha a couple of years ago. I really liked that, and I actually got to
Also.
sit in that one.
Yeah.
There was
yeah,
one
yeah.
day it was being moved out of the workshop, just
Yeah.
backwards out the workshop, and I got to sit
Yeah.
in it and turn the steering wheel. Yes, there it is.
Yeah, there it is with
And I
Dave
think-
smiling away in it, and yeah, that's also my. That was
I
my.
do really like that one.
That was my spur of the moment. Yeah, there are other ones like Gordon's car as a project was ahead of it for me. You know, I as a project and as as just an overall thing, really enjoyed it. But actually, if I just with my heart picked a car, it would be Dave's Alpha.
I do like that one.
Yeah.
But I like some of the others for the stories behind them as well. And the
This
ones
as
that we've
well.
got to know, like the early ones where their owners are friends now.
Yeah. And then I think I mentioned the other, and when I was talking to somebody else, the Mercedes that lives in its little
Yes,
house now, and
yes.
the story behind that. And
That definitely sticks
some
in
of
my
the stories
mind.
are almost more important than the cars, really. But
Yeah.
That's what makes them what they are, I suppose. So it's. And there we go. The next question: what is the most memorable car that you've owned?
Well, compared to all the rest of you, I've got fairly...
Well, not necessarily.
Boring
Not everybody-
standard
Not everybody
cars.
has owned loads of cars. You think I was talking to Tom, and he's not owned a great variety of cars. You know, there's a variety of quite a few people have owned less than you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
My favourite one that I've owned was my BMW 3 Series.
What
I
was
loved that.
Was-
It's
Do you want me to say? You know.
E91, a
Yeah.
BMW 330.
Yeah. 330
I love
D
that.
Touring M Sport manual.
Yes, that's the one.
All
yes.
black.
Yes.
It was a really good car. An unfortunate ending to a really good car. That we had a crash for cash job occur with it, and that was a bit of a gutting end to
Yes.
a very good car. That so,
Wrote it off.
Quite irritating.
I loved it. It was quick. I could put the dog in the back,
Yeah.
fit everything in
It
it.
was a does it all sort of a car, wasn't it? Yeah, it's a really good car. That.
I love that
miss it as
car.
well. And I guess that leads into the current project stroke fun stroke daily car, or the current daily car, Which is
Don't really know much about my current daily car. It's a Range Rover.
It's big and high.
Yeah, it's big. I need a ladder to get into it.
And it works at the moment.
At the moment. Let's not say that one
Briefly,
too
it
loud.
works.
Why do you think we've got a wooden table?
L322 Range Rover.
Okay, yeah, that's what it is.
GDV8.
I like it. It's comfy.
It's not as fast as the BMW, and it doesn't
Fits a
handle
lot of
as well as
stuff in it.
BMW, but it's good for transporting lots of things and people. Very comfortable.
So yeah, it's just like driving a comfortable bus.
Yeah. It's a good car, but yeah.
It's okay. It's not my BMW.
You can always,
It's
I
okay.
suppose, I know something I meant, because I briefly mentioned the questions actually yesterday, and there's something that, where there was a slight diversion off the most memorable cars you've owned, wasn't there?
Ah, versus the ones that you've owned.
yeah, you were saying that there were some memorable ones that I'd owned that you remember quite well.
Yeah,
I imagine
there
that
was.
might go for Cal and Kaz as well.
Yes, the kit car.
Yeah, I built a Lotus 7 clone, and he doesn't make them anymore, but there's a guy called Ian Gray who ran a company called Stuart Taylor Motorsport, and they built quite a lot of Lotus 7. It was like a pre-litigation Westfield chassis copy that they did for the 750 Motor Club bike engine car championships. And I used one of his chassis and his bodywork sets, but put a Vauxhall red top in it on throttle bodies, obviously, and had that used that as a sort of part-time, as a toy road car for 4 years, I think, 3 or 4 years. But Bet went in that just after
You just finished it.
Yeah, just
Only
finished it.
just.
So it didn't have a full windscreen. In fact, it had didn't even have
nothing
fly
on.
screens on it. It was just a scuttle with no screens,
Yes.
no nothing. I
you
think I
took
gave
me
you some
out.
sunglasses, didn't I?
Yeah, I think I did have some sunglasses,
You
yes.
gave us sunglasses, and then we took it out for a little test run.
Yeah, so you told me just go for a little poodle down the road. And then I think you hit 100 somewhere and I couldn't breathe.
And you were, I remember seeing
I
your
was
arm,
hitting you.
your arm waving around quite a lot.
Yes. And we got back and my ponytail stuck straight out the back of my head and was just a massive knot. Yeah, it was the most uncomfortable I've ever been in a car. That was not, it wasn't nice.
Your seat was moulded to you.
It was, my seat was made just for me.
Yeah, we did foam bag seats
Yeah.
in it, and Beck had a foam bag seat for her. And I had a
fitted
foam
me
bag seat for
perfectly.
me.
I just couldn't breathe.
So, when did you start at Retropower?
It's literally 2 weeks ago.
See, I've been saying to everyone, it feels like two weeks ago when they've said like 3 years. Well, it actually is 2 weeks ago.
I'm the rookie of the team, but yeah, 2 weeks.
And what's your very first memory of being here?
My first memory was in my interview, which was further 2 weeks back from 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just
After you came, because you came back down and did a 2-day trial with us.
yeah.
To be fair, my first impressedness was the fact you'd driven from Scotland the first time, which I didn't even know that's where you were coming from, just to have a chat with me and then drive all the way back again.
Oh yeah. 2 hours.
But then you did the 2-day.
It's first day trial.
Trial, yeah, which and I'm guessing it was at the end of that trial that we offered you a position. So maybe as you were walking out of that 2-day trial, maybe that was a good feeling. I don't know.
Yeah, that was great 2 days experience for me.
Yeah.
Just to get to know, just to taste the atmosphere and part of the crew pretty much.
Yeah.
It was exciting journey back, and it was
Buzzing.
buzzing. Yeah.
So I know it's only been a couple of weeks, but what do you most enjoy about working here so far?
I would guess just the mental process of just designing stuff.
Yeah. Problem solving.
It's all one-off things.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me. You just the day passed so fast just because your brain is so busy. And, probably about lunchtime you start to feel hungry, and then you're like, it's lunchtime. And then the time you start to get sort of a sleep, time for a coffee, you're like, it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah. And that doesn't change. I think we all still have that. We get here, we're like, God, it's lunchtime already. Because you really want to achieve so much in a day.
Yeah, exactly.
You get halfway through, you're like, I've not done as much as I wanted to do.
Yeah, I just want to push just in this and that and that and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
So this is a trickier one as you've not been here as long, but what is your favourite Retropower project?
Oh, I think the current one, which is still on the build stage, that Stu is working on, the two-door converter jack.
Churchill, yeah.
The Churchill one. So that's probably because the previous one, the Utah, really caught my attention when I watched the videos, and I really liked the way the rear, the back of the car been done, and now this one is really a step up. Really, and I just really like this sloopy design in the back. The two-door conversion also. It's very elegant.
It's got to have been our biggest metalwork challenge, I think, to date. Yeah. And it was, you know what, they always start so innocently. It was just like, Stu, you know the Mark II Jag, we're going to do another one. Oh, and can you make it a two-door coupe? And that's how it starts. And his face just drops. It's like, oh. But then I showed him the Photoshop of what I was suggesting. He was like, oh yeah, actually, that looks pretty good. And then his brain starts firing, and you know, Stu, you just let Stu run then, and it just all happens. He's just awesome at that sort of thing. You know, you don't need to intervene. You just say, this is roughly what I want, and he just does it.
No, from the classic cars, I like the sloopy shapes.
Yeah.
I have an idea of my project. Eventually, that's for Jack Mark IV.
Yeah.
That's from 50s, 4950s, if you know them.
Yeah.
You know, these big fenders which are going down to the seat. So and the sloopy back.
Yeah.
So this kind of shapes. Really, I'm really intrigued.
There's some great Americans of the sort of 50s that have that kind of fastback.
Yes.
Fastback,
yes.
Curvy but fastback sort of shape,
but
bigger. I can't even think of the examples, but it's interesting that I've always loved that type of car. There's a car that really sticks in my mind, and it's from one of the guys who first got me into doing this sort of stuff was Boyd Coddington, watching American Hot Rod on the telly.
I used to watch that in school as well.
Cadzilla, which is one of his earlier projects. It's that caddy that he built. I think it was built for one of the guys in ZZ Top. And it's just stunning, and it's still, you know, considering it was built in the 90s, early 90s, I think. You look at it now, and it's still like just as stunning as it was today, and it stood the test of time so incredibly well. And it's kind of that bubbly but tapering out shape at the back. It's stunning. So, what's the most memorable car that you've owned?
I mean, I've owned pretty much one car for the last 11 years. Until last year. So I mean that must be it.
What was that car?
It was a Peugeot 406 Coupe.
Oh yeah.
They're designed from Pininfarina. This is two-door. Mechanics is like a normal 406, but actually the actual design is they've been designed in a Pininfarina. You know, they have galvanized body and whatnot. They're kind of very well made. So that probably is.
So if you've had that for 11 years until last year, I know the sort of mileage you've been doing. What sort of mileage did you put on that car?
Not many, because it was
I suppose in Scotland you've only just been.
It's Scotland daily driven. I mean, I've been once to Germany with that car and back. Maybe 6,000.
Oh, okay, well, not that many then. And was it reliable during that time?
Pretty reliable. I've been playing with that a lot, but
that's always the scary thing. Is it V6 in those?
Yes, but no, mine was 2.2 petrol.
Oh, okay,
At the time that I bought it, I had money only for that one to buy, and it was more sensible because it was more for short journeys and whatnot. And I tried to keep the balance of that car between being overly playing with it and overly modifying it and being unreliable as well, just so I can jump and go instead of all the time being in the garage and doing repairs and whatnot. But that's probably is one. Before that, I had the same one, like in Bulgaria, for a few years. Then I sold it when I came back here, and then after a couple of years,
I missed it.
I missed it. I bought the same. But
they're a good looking car, actually. They are.
That one was the highest spec for the model, obviously. So all the extras at that time.
Yeah, I can clearly remember when they came out, when they were new, and they looked absolutely stunning. And then they're at that point, because I guess they were, late 90s, were they? And they're at that point where cars of that era don't look great at the minute, but I still think they're a great looking car. And I think in another 10 years, people are going to look at those and think they're a really stunning car.
They may be a future classic, but so that's probably the most. Before that, we've got Russian cars like Lada.
They're awesome. Don't tell Nat, but his Fiat 124 is a Lada, really.
It's a different show.
Okay, we'll leave it at that, I think. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mr. Stu.
Yep.
Judging by the comments on YouTube, probably one of the most respected people here. You seem to just constantly get awesome comments about your metalwork abilities, which is pretty cool. So much so, I reckon we need to launch a Stu merchandise range. I reckon that might go down well.
Shall I go and hide now?
Yeah. So, when did you start at Retropower?
Started in April 2012.
One of the earliest. I seem to remember, and I always get this wrong. It was Gaz was the first in sometime in 2011.
Yeah.
And it was Mark, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then you shortly after. I reckon there wasn't much gap between the two. Yeah. And what's your earliest memory? Yeah, of course.
Earliest memory was actually working on what is now Utah. Attaching the front panel to the front wings.
Yeah.
Using I think it was the Jag front panel and the Daimler front wings.
Yeah.
And grafting the two together.
Yes, I do. I remember it well. To sort of fill in the blank on that one, we started building a Mark II Jag for our landlord here, which then the project got shelved when I think he got scared about how much it was going to cost. And that went into storage for years, like from then, so 2012 until I think it was like 3 years ago we started Utah. And then when Ian came along and said, I want to do a Mark II Jag, we were like, oh, well, conveniently, we've already got a shell that we know is a pretty good starting point. But yeah, I remember that wing grafting job really well. What do you enjoy most about working here?
I think seeing everything come together. I mean, obviously I enjoy sort of smacking panels about, but...
making noise.
Yeah, but yeah, I suppose the ultimate is seeing the satisfaction of everything coming together as a finished item. Yeah. And it's a smile on the customers' faces sometimes when they get to see the final.
Yeah, definitely. It's bizarre because it's so far when you're on it, it's so far away from that end point.
Yeah.
And I think we've all got the vision of how we think it's going to turn out, and then it's just amazing seeing that actually take place. Although it's almost certainly traumatic along the way, it is awesome to see it all come together. Yeah. So, what is your favourite Retropower project?
That is a tough one, because I think each one we do has got its own appeal. And it's, I mean, I enjoy my American cars, so a toss-up between the Mustang and the Camaro, I think I'll go with the Camaro.
Yeah, but, I think that's one of mine as well. I think it's just something about the shape of that. I mean, I kind of get why some people don't get the sort of American muscle car thing, and I do get it. They're quite heavy, and it's sort of almost they're professing to sort of be a sports car when they're really kind of heavy and not. But the shapes and some of the shapes they were coming up with in the late 60s, early 70s America was just stunning. And that Coke bottle shape, it's literally, to me, it's almost perfect proportions. Yeah. On the 68, and I like the 68 most as well, the 69's got kind of those swage lines that come back from the arches, and some of the little kind of vent dimples on the back panel. And although it still looks awesome, I think it's way purer design on the 68. Really cool car. So speaking of American cars, let's get onto the cars you've owned, which is quite a hefty list. And it ranges from some very, very obscure sort of contrast from extremely small to extremely large. And there's an extremely small car that springs to mind, which you can probably tell me more about.
Yeah, the smallest one I've had is a Bond Bug, L3-wheeler. I had that over a period of about 3 years. It changed hands between myself and my brother at the time, several times. It was a good, fun little car. It really was.
So is that essentially a motorbike engine in those?
No, it is actually a Reliant. It was the old Reliant Regal. Which went to the Reliant Robin.
So it's quite a good engine because they're all alloy, aren't they? They were one of the first all alloy road car production engines, I think.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, the standard one was the 850, and then they actually tuned it by going down on the capacity, but it actually gained horsepower. I'm not quite sure how they did that, but Mine was a 700 ES. But it was a good fun little car.
Yeah, I'm still amazed by the fact that you drove this as an all year round car. I can't imagine the heating, for example, was particularly great in the winter. But
The heating was actually surprisingly good because the engine actually sits between you.
Didn't need an actual heat exchanger, you just had the heat of the engine there.
No, but you still did have
Yeah.
a hot air blower, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good fun in the winter. It used to sort of, if you did come across any sort of ice or sort of heavily packed snow, then it'd try and follow the grooves in the road, which is a little bit surprising as you only got 3 wheels.
Yeah.
The front
You're the
one and
first,
one
you're
and
the
back
first
ones
person
tried
to make a rut down the middle out on a snowy morning. Yeah.
Either that or you'd go down the road sideways. Yeah.
And then opposite end of the size spectrum, you've had some absolute beasts as well.
Yeah, the biggest one I had never actually went on the road, unfortunately. That was a 1964 Mercury Montclair Marauder anniversary.
Yes, you showed me some pictures of this. And
6.3 litre V8. And it was 18 foot long and just over 6 foot wide.
Wildly impractical on our roads. And I think we were talking about the price of fuel, weren't we? Because I imagine running one of those as your daily car now would be quite painful. And what sort of year was it you would have owned that, do you think?
That one I owned probably early 80s.
Yeah, so you've been...
like I say, I never went on the road, unfortunately. But
yeah, but you had some other massive Yank tanks around, presumably around the same sort of era.
Yeah, two of the others.
The LTD was it, and the...
Yeah, that's right. The Galaxy was the first one I had,
Galaxy.
4-door Galaxy. That was a 74. It was 5.7 V8 and 351 Cleveland.
I can see a thread running throughout it.
Used to do about 20... On a run, it'd do about 20, 22 to the gallon.
Yeah.
But,
so there seems to be a massive thirsty V8 thread throughout here, and that actually brings me on to your more recent projects. There's a project which you're working on at the minute, which is very exciting. So that's your classic Range Rover with the, is it an what engine's in it?
It's an L83.
L83, yes.
Yeah, 5.3.
Yeah, so that's going to be something pretty awesome, but we'll perhaps cover that another time, because I think the car everybody loves around here is the one you've had for a very long time. Introduce the car, and when did you get it?
Well, I bought the car off my sister in 1988, and I didn't like the way it handled, so I took it off the road a year later and did a bit of a, I think it was a 4-year sort of revamp slightly.
And this car is a
1972 MG Midget.
72. And what year did you get it to start with again?
Sorry?
What year did you get it?
I had it in 88.
88, yes.
Yeah.
That's one of those things I always go on about, the fact that if you compare that age of car now, it always seems really new, and back then, I mean, I think that would be like a 2006 car, would it? Now?
Yeah.
Which is always a strange thought for me. I think back to the older cars I've owned, and they seemed old then, and they seem old now. But now I think of how old the old cars I owned back then are now, and they seem like really new cars. I can never compute it. No, so what? Sorry, I interrupted you, but you were talking about taking it off the road to do some work on it.
Yeah, it took a bit longer than I anticipated, but it ended up going back on the road with a 4-link rear end with coilover shocks. Got rid of the leaf springs, front anti-roll bar, and the 1275 went up to 1380 with the 5-speed Ford Type 9 gearbox.
Yeah.
And then in, what was it, the late 90s, I decided that the rot was starting to come through a little bit, so it needed to come off the road for a few rot repairs. I just happened to have a couple of Rover V8s sitting in the garage at the time for a possible alternative project, and I thought it'd be nice to bring those together, the Midget and the V8. I'd heard of ones done before, but they always looked really rough and sort of thrown together. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'll do it properly.
Yeah.
You know? So I sort of started laying plans out for sort of backbone chassis, which would take a lot of the suspension components. I decided to go coil over all round and double wishbone all round as well.
Yeah.
And give me some adjustment.
It's a small project then.
Yep. Using a Sierra rear end limited slip diff. And to get the limited slip diff, a friend of mine who I used to work with suggested a Sierra 4x4, which came standard with them.
Yeah.
And he basically had a few of those before, so he found one in the scrapyard, which was reasonable. And so I asked him to check it out, make sure the diff was all right. And he says, yeah, the whole 4x4 system seems okay, so why not just chuck the lot in? Which got me thinking. I thought, I don't think it's been done before. So it was a case of modifying the chassis design slightly to accommodate the front part of the four-wheel drive system. And it sort of progressed from there.
Yes, so four-wheel drive with Sierra rear diff, Sierra gearbox, that's the Type 9 but with the transfer box, Sierra XR 4x4 front diff. What front hubs or hub carriers did you use?
They're standard Sierra 4x4s, but I used the insert from MK Engineering, and it's basically, it replaces where the strut goes.
Yes, okay, so it's a
and
Sierra
it's got a
hub.
tapered seat for a ball joint.
Yeah, I see, yeah.
But the nice thing about it was it's offset centered, so that you can actually rotate it and adjust the caster and camber.
Yeah.
Just by rotating it.
Yes, I see, yeah.
Which is quite novel.
Yeah, that's quite clever, yeah. So is it similar hubs on the back then, bespoke hub carriers on Sierra hubs?
MK Engineering, again, uprights, which are similar to the sort of Caterham, that sort of model car. But I've used different locating points because instead of running the shock off the top of the carrier, which would have made it too high, I've actually run the shock off the bottom arm. Which has managed, it's let me keep everything at a reasonable height.
Awesome. Well, enough talking about it. We should go and have a look at it, don't you think?
Yep.